Hello, all, and welcome to this Saturday afternoon's beer review. Because I am now drinking beer on work nights, because why wouldn't I? Yeah. I drink it after work, but honestly, with the way work goes, I almost feel like it'd be more effective to do it during work. Just joking, just joking. So, what am I going to dub this review? I'm going to dub it the Big Idea review. So, I just had a notion because tonight, after this particular beer, I'm going to go and do a pre-test on another one of the bottles that Randall gifted me. And this is like the first time I've had a whole bunch of different bourbon whiskeys with me. And I was wondering, it would be really interesting to do a side-by-side comparison of these various whiskeys. And because it's something I've never really done before with bourbon whiskeys. I've done it with scotches because I received like a gift set of bottles, so I could do that. And it would be interesting to kind of go and do the same with bourbon whiskeys, especially now that I have the chance. So yeah, I'll be revealing this sort of, this just came to me like a few minutes ago. So I'll be revealing it after I've reviewed the other two whiskeys left to review. And yeah, I think it's going to be pretty interesting and pretty fun. But let's return to beer since this is a beer review. And what is it that we are going to be reviewing today? Well, I said wanted to go and talk about Sam Adams' Oktoberfest beer, their Marzen. But of course, they never get enough of it in, and thus it's sold out. So I went and got another seasonal beer, Atomic Pumpkin from New Belgium. Of course, this being part of their Voodoo Ranger series. But it's not an IPA, it's a pumpkin beer. And you have to excuse my hoarseness. I don't know why I'm hoarse right now, but I am. My job does not have me talking all that much, so I'm not sure why I'm hoarse. But this can doesn't have verbiage, but I did like the verbiage on the box, which I have here in front of me on the computer, which I'm going to read right now. Enough with the run-of-the-mill pumpkin beers. I'm not interested in ale that takes cues from a frozen coffee drink, and neither are you. That's why I made Atomic Pumpkin. Does it really feature habanero peppers? Yep. What about Saigon cinnamon? Ding. Aji and Del Arbol peppers? Winner. I round it all out with a hearty malt bill that makes for a spicy brew that puts the fun back in pumpkin. Spelling was never my strength. Voodoo Ranger. Ale brewed with pumpkin juice, Saigon cinnamon, habanero, aji, and Del Arbol peppers. Well, so they use pumpkin juice instead of, actual crushed gourd inside the mash. I'm pretty sure that they did add the peppers instead of pepper juice to the mash. This is 6.4 ABV. And yeah, my figure is fairly unique so far. So let's get to this, and let's hope it loosens up my vocal cords somewhat. That or my smoking and alcohol drinking has finally caught up with me, and it has those effects on your voice, which kind of sucks because I'd then be losing my deep and sonorous tenor, well, deep and sonorous baritone singing voice. Well, let's get to it. 4 minutes in, I haven't even cracked open the beer. I just ramble on a lot. Oops, got a drip on me. Okay, so a clear amber to copper color with an off-white foamy head, about a finger's worth here. And you definitely get that cinnamon up front. And that pepper beneath that. The malt smells rich, but very undefined. It's the base on which these adjuncts are kind of playing off of. But definitely cinnamon and pepper dominate. Onto the palate now, shall we? So a decent amount of carbonation. So there's no hops in the nose, but you can tell that bittering hops have been added to this because there's some hop bitterness in the long finish, along with some residual pepper burn. Top note is definitely of the cinnamon. Initially up front, the main flavor note is of the cinnamon, as the peppers tend to have a bit more of a slow burn. You feel it up front, but the burn increases through the mids and into the long finish, and it's really most apparent on the long finish. There's a certain chewiness to the body of this beer, which is probably the only hint that pumpkins were added to this particular beer, or at least pumpkin juice. I find that pumpkins add a bit more heft and chew to the body of a beer, but there's very little of that gourd aspect otherwise. And unsurprisingly, it's only juice that was added. There's a subtle sweetness that shows up in the mid to finish. Doesn't quite last on the palate. Peppers really take over from there. Now, I'm not much affected by the pepperiness of this beer because I'm a major pepperhead when I eat. And, I'm one of those people who has a collection of hot sauces in his refrigerator. So, I'm probably not the best judge of the average level of heat tolerance. This might be too peppery for some people, particularly since it has a very characteristic long, slow burn of habanero peppers, which tend to not have much bite in the initial and then ramp up. This has grown on me somewhat. I usually don't like pepper beers, but for some reason the balance of sweet and cinnamon, as well as the added body, makes it more acceptable to me for some reason. Like I said, I'm a little hoarse, like a pony. I don't know enough about Del Arbol or Aji peppers to know what they add into the mix. I can really definitely tell the characteristic aspects of the habanero heat. As it warms up, the heat is becoming a bit more apparent. But by no means intolerable. Man, I hope I'm not losing my voice. That would suck. But my palate is working just fine, mind you. My palate is working just fine. So, what can I say about Atomic Pumpkin? Because I've pretty much said everything there is to say about it at this point. It's a pumpkin beer with peppers, you know? Well, like with nearly every single pumpkin beer I review, I want more pumpkin. I want more pumpkin. I want to return back to that first craft beer I ever had, which was a pumpkin ale, and it tasted like pumpkin in a glass. So many rely on spice, the cinnamon, the allspice, all that other things, to create something that's more akin to a pumpkin pie like beer experience, as opposed to something that focuses on the gourd itself. This one I appreciate for taking it in a completely different direction. You know, it's spicy, but in the end, it's the peppers that are defining this beer. And that makes it different from most of the other ones which are letting the cinnamon and spice. This one still has a very noticeable cinnamon aspect to it. But for once, I would like a pumpkin beer, that puts the pumpkin front and center. And then realize that that's very difficult. But there's a lot of great brewers out there, and I'm hoping one of them gets to it, and I'm hoping I can have that beer one of these days. And if any of you out there know of a pumpkin ale where pumpkin is front and center, the main focus is on that adjunct as opposed to any added spices, or in this case, peppers, please tell me, because I would love to try it. So I wouldn't turn this down. Would I get it again? Honestly, for seasonal beers, I'm all about the fest beers and Marzens. But I'll give pumpkin beers a shot. I'm not going to go out of my way to find them, but I'll give them a shot. And that, folks, Atomic Pumpkin from Voodoo Ranger, is your beer review for this Saturday afternoon. Cheers!